Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to today's webinar, Hop In, How Shared Rides Boost Staff Benefits, brought to you by Get There Oregon and partners, including the Columbia Corridor Association, Commute with Enterprise, Metro, and the Westside Transportation Alliance. Employers today face unprecedented staffing challenges between the Great Resignation and skyrocketing gas prices that make employee commutes even more painful. Commutes have steadily gotten longer, not only due to traffic congestion, but farther distances traveled for work too. And the commute is taking a lot out of employee paychecks. Oregon's current average gas price per gallon, according to AAA, is $5.54. Today, we'll be looking at how shared commute solutions, carpooling and vanpooling can give employers a competitive edge to retain and attract talent by easing commutes, especially on-site shift workers that can't use transit or other options. Plus, we'll be exploring rideshare resources, tools, and services available for employers and their employees to use at no or little cost.
Que están causando más problemas. Lo primero,
Oregon. My name is Kelly Bantle, and I'm with Allegiant Strategies Northwest and serve as a program specialist with Get There Oregon, that's spearheaded by the Oregon Department of Transportation and our local partners to help commuters and employers shift commute habits and work practices one trip at a time to keep Oregon moving. I'll be moderating today's webinar. As well, a few house rules before we get started so everyone has the best webinar experience. Please note closed captions and Spanish translation are both available. Instructions on how to turn these features on are located here in the slide. If you have any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'll pose questions to our expert panelists at the end of today's webinar. Starting off, we'll examine the advantages and benefits of carpooling for employers and on-site employees. And we'll explore how to tap into Oregon's free online trip planning, ride matching, and metrics tracking tool, Get There Connect, and as well how to access employer support services offered by Get There Oregon and local partners. I'd first like to introduce Sydney Cape, who serves on Get There Oregon's employer support and commuter engagement team through Alta Planning and Design. Sydney provides technical support for Get There Connect, and she acts as a liaison between local transportation providers, employers, and commuters to ensure ready access to resources and services. Plus, Sydney plays a lead role in Get There's statewide employer and commuter program activities. And joining Sydney is Julia Person, Sustainability Manager at Bob's Red Mill. Headquartered in Oregon with manufacturing and distribution operations that serve national and global markets, Bob's Red Mill produces over 400 natural foods products. Demand for Bob's products has steadily grown, requiring the company to expand production and consequently its workforce. People are central to the core values that guide Bob's operations, as is the company's commitment to sustainability. Julia combines Bob's people and sustainability priorities to enhance operations while meeting production needs and upholding company standards. She leads Bob's newly launched Sustainable Employee Commute Options program that leverages Get There Oregon's free tools and resources. Promoting carpooling among day and night on-site shift workers is one of the program's top goals. And with those introductions, I'd like to now hand it over to Sydney and Julia.
Thank you, Kelly. Before we dive into the details of the Get There program and Get There Connect, I just wanted to set the stage with some of the advantages of carpooling. So first, it's a great transportation option for on-site workers, particularly 24/7 shift workers with more irregular schedules. As many of us know, transit isn't always an option at all hours of the day, and also people might not feel comfortable biking at night or when it's dark. So that's where carpool comes in. It's a great solution to address the first and last mile issues as well between transit stops and work sites. So where your home is a little bit too far from the bus stop, or the bus stop is a little bit too far to your work site. Or again, when there's not a reasonable bike route from your home to your workplace. Also, carpooling lets employees enjoy their commutes more. They can take turns driving, which gives them back more time for activities that they enjoy, such as having time to read, chatting with coworkers, getting to know each other better, listening to podcasts and music, or just simply unwinding after your day of work. Julia, could you tell us a little bit about why Bob's Red Mill opted to focus on the commute and carpooling specifically?
Sure. Yeah. Good morning, and really happy to be here today. And I hope sharing a little bit about our experience here at Bob's is helpful to others. So how we started as a sustainability group to focus on the commute is actually we used Clackamas County, where we're headquarters, their Green Business Certification Program. And we're gold certified, which is great, but we use that tool to look at, hey, where did we not score well, and what are we not yet offering our employees that a really good business does? And we found that assisting in green commuting was something we were a little weak in. So we formed a subcommittee around just alternative transportation to look at how could we increase alternative forms of transportation. And we knew we wanted to look at bus options, bike, pedestrian improvements, but we quickly learned that, well, hey, first we need to ask the employees what they want us to focus on. So we went first to gather the data and surveyed our employees about how are they currently commuting and what are they interested in most as an alternative commute option. And we found that carpool was the form of commuting that had the most interest. So that's where we shifted then to focus on ways that we could make carpooling easier.
And that is where Get There Connect comes in. So Get There Connect is Oregon and Southwest Washington's free online trip planning and rideshare matching and metrics tracking tool. It's accessible on both desktop and mobile devices. Employees can use Get There Connect for free to explore and tap into all of their commute options. Specifically, they can join or start carpools or vanpools, and then, as I mentioned, track metrics, which include money that they're saving for taking these other transportation options, calories burned if they're using active modes, and CO2 reduced. They can also take advantage of reward and incentive programs as available in their area, and they can join optional employer networks so that they will be organized within the system in their organization, and they're able to join those employer networks using unique URLs, which we'll talk a little bit about on the next slide. So as I mentioned, one element of Get There Connect is a free employer network. And this is exactly what we did when we were working with Bob's Red Mill. We created a custom URL. In this case, it was getthereoregon.org/Bob's Red Mill, where Bob's Red Mill employees could follow that link, and they're taken directly into Get There Connect, where they're prompted to either log in if they already have an account, or register to create an account, and then they click a join button and are now involved in the employer network. So this enables employers to track their employees' participation and also organization-wide metrics. They can also do promotional push-outs and email the participants directly, and even run their own company-specific reward programs and offer incentives as well. Additionally, employees can choose to only be matched up with other employees within their network. So if they only feel comfortable carpooling with people that work at the same place, then there's a feature to select that. And then they will not see other carpool options outside of their organization. Next slide. As I mentioned, one of the key functions of Get There Connect is that it can track and calculate a wide range of stats and metrics for employees and employers. So in the screenshots here, you get an example of each. The bigger one with the chart, that one is for employers. That's what an employer will see for everyone who's a part of their network. They can track as I mentioned, the CO2 reduced, money saved, miles traveled, etc., and even see a breakdown of each mode that their employees are taking on in any given time frame. Employees log their commute trips and or remote work days in Get There Connect using the desktop application or their mobile device. They can do this either daily manually or set it up through the app where it can happen automatically, and all you have to do is go in and approve the trip. And then they can track their stats, and employers can also run reports on those different metrics. So another great feature of Get There Connect is that users can join challenges and take advantage of different rewards and incentives. In many cases, these programs are local or just region-wide, but there is an annual statewide challenge called the Get There Challenge, which I work on along with the rest of the Get There team. It happens every October, and this year's challenge is happening October 3rd through the 16th, and participants can earn points for prizes by unlocking these fun activity and skill building achievements. As you can see on the slide here, that's an example of what the achievements look like. And we offer great prizes every year. And so anyone who is involved or who has an account with Get There Oregon can participate in this program, and it gives another reason to log their trips, join their networks, and track their savings.
Before we move on, there is a question that might be timely.
Okay.
It says, it's from Megan Watts. It says, does this mean it's for Bob's Red Mill employees only, like a single sign-on?
So the custom URL, the getthereoregon.org/Bob'sRedMill, that is made specifically for Bob's Red Mill employees. So that is something that Julia took and we used for the Bob's Red Mill promotional materials that we'll talk about later, that is distributed to everyone, and then they create their own personal account and log in, but they are just included underneath that bigger umbrella network.
Thank you, Sydney.
So one of the main and most important features of Get There Connect, of course, is carpool and vanpool matching. It's an awesome system that just makes it really easy to find convenient carpool or vanpool partners. Employees can enter their starting point and their destination, so their home and their workplace, and discover the different carpool and vanpool options that are displayed on a map, like the one that you see on the slide here. They can also search for available drivers or people who are looking for rides. So depending on if you yourself are offering a ride, or if you don't have a vehicle or don't want to use your vehicle, you can just filter it to look for people who are drivers. Along the side there's details for everyone's trip. So it'll show you the most convenient options for carpooling. And then you can click on the box on the side to expand information that tells you more about that person's commute, which includes the days that they commute, the hours, and they can even leave notes about how flexible they are. So if they're able to start, between a 30-minute range, then they can note that, and that can help you find the best match. Once you find a match that looks good to you, you can message that person directly from the platform, and that message then goes to their email. Then you two are now connected by email and can coordinate from there on all of the details and logistics for carpooling. And I did want to mention we do have some tips for starting a carpool at gettherooregon.org/carpool. So in addition to using Get There Connect, Get There Oregon and our local partners also provide an array of free support services. We are happy to support you directly, or if we can't support you, then we can typically point you in the right direction to make sure your employees have access to everything they need to find their best commute. Some of the resources and support that Get There and our partners can offer are eco survey support. So that's the employee commute options survey, which is required for employers with over 100 employees in the Portland metro area. Some of our partners like TriMet and Westside Transportation Alliance can offer direct support for those surveys. In many parts of the state, we also have emergency ride home programs, which provide employees with a free ride home from work when an unexpected situation arises, if they've taken a different mode other than driving their personal vehicle. So we can point you in the right direction and let you know if there's a program in your area. And then, of course, we also provide free co-branded employee marketing materials, which is exactly what we did for Bob's Red Mill. And for them, we developed break room materials, which included flyers and takeaways, and also like static TV slides. We also developed some intranet content, supervisor talking points, and employee emails. Julia, can you share with us details about the newly launched employee commute program options at Bob's Red Mill?
Yeah, so we did that survey and heard back from employees, and we wanted to tell them, hey, we heard you and here's a resource. So we were able to announce the Get There Connect network. And we were really so impressed with the assistance that the Get There team could provide, really helped us to be successful. It's a free resource to the business, so it's really a must to take advantage of. The dashboard that Sydney showed, it's really beautiful and easy to use on the user side and also on the admin side. It works great on mobile. And then they were able to provide the registration instructions for us for users to learn how to log in, how to use it. And like she shared, the handouts, bilingual assets. And I also like that in the platform, the carpool matching is great, but you can also find bike routes and TriMet connections in there. And also our employees are able to track what they save, their dollar savings, as well as their CO2 footprint. And our remote workers are able to track in there as well. And also, of course, people in our Bob's Red Mill Network, they can use this platform for their personal trips too, not just their commute trips. So there's a lot in the tool that we haven't even tapped into yet. So to roll it out, we wanted to make sure that we had some extra incentives to encourage folks to get involved. So before the rollout, we put in some priority parking spots for carpool users close to the entrance and at our different locations. So those are reserved for carpool users only. We previously had an cash incentive for alternative transportation. If you take a mode, you get $5 a week. And before the rollout, we were able to double that incentive to $10 a week. So if you carpool, bus, bike, walk to work, you're eligible to $10 a week added to your paycheck. So that's a great incentive. And then another one we added and announced with our rollout is that any month that you log any trip in the Get There platform, you're eligible to be entered into a monthly raffle. And that's for a $25 gift card at our whole grain store. So that's definitely a popular incentive too. So along with those, we're able to leverage all the amazing resources from the Get There team to launch our program. For anyone that signed up in the initial window, we also entered them to win an emergency card kit and try to get our incentive and prizes to be connected to commuting to make it fun. And we use these on email in our break rooms, like Sydney mentioned. We have something called Bob TV. So we had the educational assets up there. We had a little fair for Earth Day. So we had a table about Get There and to help people sign up right there. We created the QR code to make it easy for folks to sign up. And some lessons learned. So we're new at this and we definitely need to continually educate and get the word out. So our subcommittee that's focused on alternative and transportation, we continue to meet and we're going to continue to use the Get There team. We'll definitely participate in that October Drive Less Commute Challenge that Sydney mentioned. We're excited about that. We plan to team up more with our wellness group in HR and make that connection to wellness. And we also, for those monthly drawings, we announce those prizes and the prize winners. So hopefully that sparks interest in folks to get involved that aren't involved yet. And then we're asking folks that are using the platform right now to spread the word themselves, to let their coworkers know about it. And just, we're excited to keep it going. And with the support of Get There Oregon, I'm excited to see how we're able to continue being successful with this.
Thank you, Julia and Sydney. We're now going to turn our attention to another shared ride commute option for employees, vanpooling. I'd like to introduce David Miggs. He's the sales and support executive at Commute with Enterprise. Commute with Enterprise is a division of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. It is the largest vanpool provider in North America with services that include setting up and managing vanpools for commuters and as well employers. Enterprise helps organize vanpools among commuters, plus provides vehicles, 24/7 roadside assistance, maintenance, and insurance. David works with commuters and employers across Oregon, Washington, and Alaska to make commutes better for on-site employees through vanpooling. So David, please take it away.
Kelly, thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks for everybody for attending today's webinar. First, I'd like to address a few issues our community is facing and how we can work together to overcome these challenges. According to Bloomberg, US employers aren't just having a hard time attracting workers, they're increasingly struggling to hold on to them. This chart shows surveyed industries that are either very or somewhat concerned about retaining workers and maintaining adequate staffing levels. This business concern has driven up salaries and sign-on bonuses in order to recruit and retain employees. Their competition then in turn does the same thing in an effort to outbid them and fulfill their own need. This cycle has created a self-feeding loop of employee turnover. Next slide, please. As of May, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics currently estimates that there's 11 million jobs that are currently open and only 6 million people who are unemployed and looking for a job. Employers across the US are struggling to maintain adequate staffing levels and looking for creative ways to attract top talent. As of today, AAA is saying that the average price per gallon across the United States is over $5 per gallon, and no one knows when that increase will discontinue. Commute employee transportation solutions can help ease the transportation costs, which will have a positive impact on both retention and recruitment for our employer partners. Here's some quick stats. According to a Glassdoor survey, commuting is the second most important factor when applying for a job. A study from an analytics company, Cone Communications, showed that 58% of prospective employees considered an employer's social and environmental commitments when searching for a job. A conference board survey discovered that the commute is the second most important factor for job satisfaction. A Robert Half survey found that 23% of employees have left a job because of a bad commute. The Journal for Transport Geography has correlated longer commutes with higher absenteeism. And finally, the US EPA states that the average passenger vehicle emits 4.6 metric tons of CO2 each year. Whether businesses realize it or not, their employees' transportation impacts their bottom line. That's where this community comes in. Next slide, please. Commute with Enterprise offers a turnkey van pool service. We are a preferred vendor for many transit agencies across the country. In Oregon, we're currently partnered with Chariots in Salem, Lane Transit District in Eugene, SMART in Wilsonville, and Cascades Transit, as well as commute options in the Bend area. We're always looking for additional employer and transit agency partnerships. Vanpool is a mode of public transportation, just like bus or rail, that is eligible to receive public funding. Subsidy programs from transit agencies can cover up to 50% of the rental rate, while the remainder is covered by the Vanpool employer or the employees. Vanpool is designed to complement a transit agency's portfolio and diversify their services to the community. Some members of the community are unable to utilize forms of transportation like light rail or bus services. Let's see, can you go to the next slide, please? Actually, back two. Looks like we're missing the slide. No worries. Many folks are commuting from remote areas that basically don't have either a convenient first stop or last stop. There's also a lot of folks that are traveling far distances where they could potentially take public transportation like bus or rail, but due to connection stops, that might take too long, be time intensive and inconvenient. Vanpooling is a flexible fixed route transportation service that can bridge gaps in current public transportation. This flexibility can increase the inclusivity and the transportation portfolio to quickly provide services to an underserved population in their community. Next, I'd like to answer the question, what is the Commute with Enterprise transportation solution? Vanpooling is very similar to carpooling. The major difference is that instead of using your personal car, our customers rent a vehicle from us. We connect riders that have a similar work schedule as well as live near each other. We do this a couple different ways. We have a ride matching systems, both with our public transportation partners through the Get There platform, and also have similar abilities with the Commute with Enterprise website. Customers enter their desired work schedule and route, and then the system will match them with existing van pools. The commute system can also connect unmatched rider leads to create new van pools as well. One of the most successful ways we create van pools is by partnering with an employer to create cluster maps of the employees. The employer provides employee addresses with employee names encoded. The employer retains a key of the employee's name and as well as their corresponding number. We then create a map for each shift where we show the employer where their employees are commuting from. From there, we identify groups of people that are high distance commuters that live near each other and hold commuter connection meetings. These commuter connection meetings are ultimately those clustered participants. And in that meeting, we explain what the concept is, as well as the financial benefits of joining into a van pool program. The first thing that our attendees realize is that the hardest part about creating a van pool is finding a group of people that live near them and have that similar schedule. We then get a reveal to the audience that everybody in that specific meeting lives near each other. And then we work to create a van pool right then and there on the spot with that group of people. Van pool groups pick from a wide variety of brand new SUVs and crossovers, and we provide them new replacement vehicles about every other year. The van pool groups gets to decide where they want to meet, as well as take turns driving the van pool. On average, we are saving each one of our van pool participants about $6,000 per year by being in our program. Our commute rental includes 24/7 roadside assistance, no cost preventative maintenance plan, an emergency ride home program, and we also come with a month-to-month flexibility. The rental also comes with a $0 deductible damage waiver, as well as a $1 million combined single limit liability policy, all included in the price. Simply said, it's like renting a car from Enterprise and purchasing all of our coverage options. We also provide our customers a fuel card for all of their fuel transactions. So those fuel transactions just get automatically added back into their invoice. Next slide, please. As I previously said, the most effective way to create a van pool program is to form a partnership directly with an employer. When an employer creates a van pool program, we solve the mystery of ride matching. Everyone is going to be in the same place because they all are working at that same place. And the employer knows where people are coming from as well as their shifts. Commute provides a no-cost mapping analysis for their employees and gives our employer partners the data to implement a program. From the mapping data, the employer can determine the potential for the program and then decide whether or not they want to financially contribute to the program. The program can be completely free, or the employer can pay for it, or it can be somewhere in the middle. From there, we implement the program. The first step to implementing an employer van pool program is for the employer's leadership to announce the program and roll the program out to the employees. From there, the goal is to create a buzz about the program. We provide awareness campaign material for the employer to distribute either by flyers, emails, or even digital advertising on like internal TV monitors. After the awareness campaign, we then conduct the commuter connection meetings for those clustered employees, and then start forming van pools. Commute has a dedicated staff of managers that manages the local operation. That way that we're not being a burden to the employer partner. We also provide a state-of-the-art website for van pools to manage their own van pool. Once a van pool program is implemented, we also provide our employer partners quarterly business reports that shows the impact of the program. The QBR provides real data on single occupancy vehicle mile reduction. From there, we're able to extrapolate CO2 reduction, parking spaces saved. We're also able to calculate the total dollar amount that their employees are saving by participating in the program. If you are or know of any business that would benefit from implementing a van pool program, please reach out. You can email me, connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can also reach out to us by going to commutewithenterprise.com, inserting information in there, and I can reach out to you directly. From there, I think we'll open it up for questions, and thank you everybody for coming today.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. We will have contact information up on the screen here shortly. But let's dive into some questions. And so to start out, I would like to pose a question to Miss Julia Person with Bob's. Julia, could you talk a little bit more about how you conducted your employee commute survey? What steps did you take?
Yeah, for the survey, which we found so valuable because we heard directly from our employees and that directed how we created the program. We just took the really simple approach of using the Survey Monkey tool, which is really easy to use. We tried to keep it as short as possible to encourage folks to complete it. And it came along with a raffle drawing to encourage folks to do it. So we had prizes to complete, and we tried to make those related to commuting. So we raffled off a local handmade backpack by North Street Bags, some travel mugs from the Bob's Red Mill store, and we sent out this survey link online through email, through our internal communications channel, and we also printed out paper surveys and put those in the break rooms, and we actually got a lot returned completed on papers. So that helped us make sure we heard from a wide cross section of employees here.
Thank you, very helpful. Now a question for Mr. David Miggs. Can you talk a little bit about what the employer may be on the hook for when it comes to vanpooling? Are there costs as well? Are there any kinds of liability issues?
Great question. So in regards to a cost from an employer, it is as much or as little as they want. So we have a lot of employer partners that don't pay anything for the vanpool program. We still conduct the commuter connection meetings and cluster maps at no cost. There's also employers that will pay the total cost of the vanpool program. Ultimately, participants, employees typically will act in their own financial best interest. So the less expensive a vanpool is for the participants, typically the greater percentage of utilization of the program. So the last two programs that we implemented, one was in Newburgh, one was in Dallas. Both of those employers are paying 100% of the vanpool cost after their local transit agency subsidy, and they have 40+% of their employees that are in the program. Completely optional, completely up to the employer. Ultimately, it's providing, options for them.
We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A. One from Jamie Stewart. How would we be able to get set up from vanpool in Hermiston and surrounding areas? Go ahead.
Please feel free to give me a call. I can put my phone number as well as my email in the chat. We're actually talking to a local transit agency out there about potentially implementing a vanpool program and a subsidy program. Still really early in the conversation, no idea if or when that does happen. But ultimately, just give me a phone call or an email, and I'd be happy to walk you through implementing a vanpool program and going through the details.
We have another question in the Q&A from Corky Collier. We pay transit taxes, yet our location has never had transit service. Is it possible to get a rideshare subsidy based on our existing transit taxes?
So implementing a subsidy program is up to the local transit agency. Like to ask kind of where you're coming from, or sorry, what area your employer is. See if there's potentially a vanpool program. Again, I'd recommend reaching out to me either by email or phone call. I'll list that here in the chat in just a sec.
So a couple of other questions that we have in the queue. What strategies can be used to match on-site employees without work computers? And perhaps Julia, with your on-site workers working various shifts from day to night, what have you guys at Bob's done?
Yeah, folks are able to use their phone and the Get There network is all mobile, and we provided the QR codes. But we could also, we haven't done this yet, but to set up a transportation board in our break rooms where it's a non-digital way that folks can look and match. So that could be a next step that we implement.
Thank you. And another question for David. How exactly, again, do employers gauge interest in employees and match them up in vanpools? Can you talk a little bit more about your cluster map system and how that works?
Great question in regards to figuring out engagement for a vanpool program. Ultimately, not everybody's going to opt into a vanpool program, which is why we do mapping. Vanpools tend to be for further distance commutes, people that don't have access to, they couldn't really ride their bike to get to work. They can't really ride a bus or anything like that. Ultimately, we're targeting the folks that are traveling the furthest distance that have the highest transportation costs. In regards to, let's see, make sure I'm answering the question here. To making sure that everybody has similar benefits, we're looking to provide a program for the folks that don't have access to other means of transportation. Ultimately, we gauge interest by doing the mapping analysis for the worksite. So we see how many employees are coming from further distances, who could opt into a program. Surveys, people tend to opt out of taking surveys, or oftentimes if they're not really fully informed for what the things that they're answering for the survey are, you know, so say you're answering a survey, would you be interested in joining a vanpool? But you have no idea what a vanpool is. It's very frequently that person would say no. That's why we'll do the mapping, then the cluster mapping, then the commuter connection meetings for those clusters. At that point, we can fully inform those people that are traveling that furthest distance that have the highest transportation costs. Then we let them opt into the program. So they're fully informed. At that point, they can opt in and we can figure out the details there.
So it sounds like often vanpoolers are going from one city to another. And that's a kind of typical work scenario that you address. I'm thinking like in Salem, many state agencies, employees are coming in, for example, from the Portland or Eugene area.
Vanpooling starts to make sense, and we really see a lot of participation for people that are traveling 10 plus miles to work. Those folks can't really ride a bicycle 10 miles, or they might be able to, but it'd be really difficult to do so. Also, access to transportation tends to get very expensive, and also their gas prices are much higher than people traveling less than 10 miles. So on average, usually it's 10 plus miles people are commuting with us.
Another question here for Sydney. This one is it necessary for an employer to have a custom network for its employees to join Get There Connect and use the tool?
That's a great question. No, it is not required at all. Any person or anyone who lives or works in Oregon can join Get There Connect, and there's no requirement to join any network. You will be automatically placed into certain networks based on your zip code that you enter, which is a requirement to register. And that will just funnel you into our main regional networks where that person will then have access to regional programs. But if there's, in many cases, an employer network won't exist, and so they can totally join without it. But we, of course, encourage employers to reach out to us to create one, and then we can place different employees into that one once it's created.
Looks like we have one more question from the Q&A. This is from Kathy Fitzpatrick. She asks, if an employer provides any subsidies for a vanpool program, how do most employers make sure that every employee has similar benefits? Have you worked with employers who have a union such as in place? And how does that work differently when you offer benefits that may only serve a certain percent of employees? I think, David, maybe you could try taking a crack at that question.
Yeah, so ultimately, van pooling is a piece of the pie for public transportation and providing transportation options. We're ultimately targeting the folks that are traveling the furthest distance. So by adding in a van pool program to the host of transportation options, that's ultimately increasing the inclusivity of a transportation options program. So we're not targeting the folks that are, in walking distance or biking distance or busing distance. We're targeting the folks that are traveling that furthest distance that currently don't have that access.
I have another question actually that showed up in chat, and it's just about going into detail about how difficult it is to arrange a van pool. The asker asked us to be realistic and don't sugarcoat it, and wondered if Julia could speak about her experience there.
We actually don't do the van pool option at Bob's Red Mill. It's something that our subcommittee has on the radar as an incentive to offer in the future, but it is hard. Not everyone wants to log into a new platform, no matter how easy it is to use. And we do have a lot of employees that were already carpooling together and had just matched themselves, and they're able to take advantage of these incentives, but don't necessarily have to use this tool. So we're hoping it's something that new employees, when they're onboarded, are made aware of, and can get in there and connect. But yeah, we're new at this and just learning. So we want to get an uptick in participation on the Get There network. So trying to figure out what works from folks, talking to who currently is using the platform and how's it work for them, what challenges might they have that we can help address. But yeah, our numbers aren't huge yet on carpooling. Gas prices are high, so we're hoping to keep working on it and get more folks signed up.
Love to hop in here. I'll answer the question a couple different ways. So if an employer is creating a van pool program, the lead time is basically about a month. But by the time that we conduct mapping, that we execute a contract with that employer to be able to render services to their employees. Once that program is up and running, ultimately van pools start forming themselves. So once we do the initial implementation from a mapping analysis meeting, we do the first round of commuter connection meetings. We'll have early adopters and we'll also have late adopters. Ultimately, that first round of commuter connection meeting is spreading awareness. A lot of people want to dive right in. A lot of people want to figure out how things go. Once we get the program up and running, there's word of mouth that's going to be spread amongst other employees. They're going to be like, how do I either get into a van pool? So at that point, van pools tend to basically divide. So there's, maybe 7 seats on a vehicle, but you got 10 folks interested in a van pool. So we're creating a duplicate van pool and a duplicate route. Employees will basically be reaching out to each other saying like, hey, we were all in that meeting. Like, do you want to start a van pool? So we've already had them identify who's commuting to and from specific locations. From there, once we have a van pool program up and running, just takes us we just need enough time to find a vehicle. So last 2 accounts that we got up and running, last 3 van pools from each account has taken us less than a week to launch. So the group has formed and come together. They're like, hey, we're a van pool. We know the details. At that point, we just have to find a vehicle. Enterprise, even through the supply chain issues that the auto industry is incurring, Enterprise is in a very good position from vehicle availability. So we've retained our vehicles, even though the manufacturers have slowed down their production from chip shortages. Now, from end participants, so say they're not part of an employer program, ultimately, just like everything else, they have to find a group of 5 riders. We have the vehicle availability, especially with their subsidized with a local transit agency as well. They have that as well. Ultimately, the lead time for us to launch a van pool is probably a couple weeks tops.
Well, thank you. I believe those are all of the questions that we have. Real quick, just moving on here, wanted to share contact information with everyone. Please, if you're looking for employer resources, go to getthereoregon.org. We've got quite a lot of tools and as well resources to tap into there that are well described. Also email us at info@getthereoregon.org. Sydney and I monitor that email, and we'd be happy to assist you or point you in the right direction if you're looking for some specialized local resources. Also like to encourage you to follow Get There on LinkedIn, and you see the link there. And then also information, contact information for David is here, his email, and I believe, David, you put that in the chat as well. And also, oh, go ahead.
We do have one more question.
Oh, please go ahead.
So does using a van pool instead of a carpool save wear and tear on your personal vehicle or allow someone who doesn't have a car to get to work?
Absolutely. That's kind of one of the biggest benefits and like differences from carpooling versus van pooling. Van pooling, you're renting a vehicle from us instead of using your own vehicle. When you're thinking about costs of transportation, most people, they're thinking about just what they're paying at the pump from $5 a gallon. There's a lot of other costs that are associated with owning and operating a vehicle. I mean, oil changes, new tires, wear and tear on your vehicle. Each mile that you're putting on your personal car means that your vehicle is depreciating, so you can sell that vehicle for less money. Really difficult to take a look at those costs and split that among when you're using your personal car. A van pool, we have all of those costs on a single invoice, making it easier for people to spread that cost. I think that answers the question. Did I hit it, Kelly?
I think so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Again, please feel free to contact us as questions come to mind. And we'd like to encourage you to register for our next webinar, which will be held July 21st, I believe at noon. Workplace solutions for a flexible future. Looking at, in particular, hybrid work solutions. And you can register by going on to getthereoregon.org/webinar. So we do hope to see you there. And thank you very much for attending today's webinar. And in particular, thank you to our excellent panelists, Julia Person with Bob's Red Mill, David Miggs with Commute with Enterprise, and Sydney Cape representing Get There Oregon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.